Wait, and Eon. Luffy still missing? Utterly massless. The boy is 14 billion years old. When will he ever grow up?
Apparently, never.
14 billion years old, man.
That is older than our planet.
Yeah,
If you haven't grown after 14 billion years,
give up on it.
there's hope for you,
Hello, and
Geo.
welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. I am not Lufo. I am your host, Robert.
I am Lufo. No, I'm Captain Chaos.
And I'm Ricky, Captain
Yeah.
Chaos brother.
For all of you out there who have actually listened to our show earlier, you probably remember Ricardo has been in our show before. Since we don't have our mad scientist today, we had to get a third. So
But you know by now that the goodness that is inhabitant in me, that I lack, he has it.
I just keep it under control. We all need chaos in our life, and
You know, man, living on the edge, keeping me level.
nice. Okay, so since we don't have the mad scientist with us today, I guess the first question that we ask is, what have we been watching that is sci-fi related lately or experiencing?
Anything for you? Well, yeah, he's been playing with me Gears of War 5.
Nice.
Nice.
We've been going. We go way back with Gears. We had the first version of an Xbox. We grew up on it. We would play until like 3, 4 a.m. in the morning and wake
That and
up.
Halo.
Eh?
That and Halo.
For sure, and then wake up at 6 to go to go to school or something. I know that we were crazy like that.
We will play a lot of the 4 split screen on that very first Xbox.
I remember that.
Good times, man.
Good times.
Hell yeah. What have you been watching sci-fi?
Well, in preparation to this, I've seen quite a while, quite a lot of Dust, and there's a couple that I would like to bring up. Granted, they are not the ones that we decided to do for this podcast.
To do today.
For X or Y reasons. I mean, I don't think we'll ever do those. But we did had a watch party to do Hyperlight.
Which, if you've missed it, shame on you. Go to Discord so you cannot miss it next time.
Yeah, we usually have those watch parties all the time in our Discord channel, so you guys are invited. So we did Hyperlight. It was a good movie. Gio had his opinions on it. I do have to agree that some of the theories explained in that film didn't add up to us. So.
Point. There were theories, but they were not explained. They were justified theories with no explanation.
Yeah, so the movie was good.
Yeah.
So if you want to give it a try, it's really good. We just felt that maybe wasn't the best for the show. And the reason why I'm mentioning in that manner is based on a conversation that I had in previous episodes where I mentioned that we do episodes based on what we feel we like on the show. So if there's anything that we might not like about the material, we'd rather not cover because we feel that you don't need to hear another podcast um, talking bad about a property.
Like bashing.
It's not right.
Well, I will venture to say this: it's not like Time Traveler by Disney with H.G. Wells Jr. Which was outrageous to me. I love the book.
I'm not going to leave that joke down.
But this one is not like we have bad things to talk. It's just for a short movie, it left way too many more questions than arguments to converse over it. And we like to have a stimulating conversation that can extend a little bit so we can give you good content, you know?
Correct.
Speaking of stimulating, I was just remembering this I watched a long time ago. Um, there's this really old anime. It's probably uh, it's from the 70s or so, called Captain Harlock. And I'm bringing it up because it's a sci-fi from the 70s. It's really old. Music is really old. Like, so you don't expect anything uh, crazy out of that, but the context of the show, it's so interesting, and for someone to write it way back then, it's a world in which the everybody, like technology has taken over the world, but to the point where like humans have nothing to do, just a lot of leisure.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard of that show?
I have heard the show. I don't think I have. I have it on my long list, uh, but I haven't started yet.
But it's very interesting. I just remember it now, so that's not haven't been watching that, but it was so interesting, and just to see like how the world it's getting along when men supposedly had nothing to do, and how is that affecting the society? It was very thought provoking.
I'm just gonna steer the pod, beat the business, but I want your answer, guys. That word that he said there, and Robert said it before, gave me to this very very chronicle moment. Is it A, supposedly, B, supposedly, C, supposedly?
He had been
Leave your answers in your
what
comment.
has he been waiting for that moment for like
I think he was born for that moment.
There's
You
reasons that
know,
I'm called chaos,
there's I
and it's
guess
not written like ch.
it
But
was
there's,
written. It was written in the stars, right?
yep.
So
uh,
Lufo did this.
we'll blame Lufo. Um, I also saw the black hole. Really interesting.
Did you see anything on it?
Very short. Um, if you haven't watched it, it's really interesting. This guy works in an office building, and he's trying to get this copy machine to work. And the copy machine did a printout of a black circle. However, he promptly discovered that it was kind of like a black portal. He was able to put his coffee inside. Then he took the paper and he's playing around, sticking his hand in it. Really thought provoking. So that was also really good that I
Did he
saw.
only stick his hand on it?
And actually, he went into the safe of the office. And
Holy, okay, he was creative. I gotta watch
yeah, I'm not
that.
going to tell you the ending, but oh boy, it sucks for him
Oh,
big time.
well, it's a black hole. Of course, it sucks for him.
Pum pum. Another reason why he's Captain K was born for the show.
not enough happens near a black hole. Tell me, where's that from?
Well, until Geo gets in. So.
The world will become a more boring place without me. I know.
Two other things that I watched: Eternal Dawn, and if you can notice a theme here, hint hint, dust.
Is it a planet that is elliptically locked? So you have that twilight zone that is the only hospitable place?
No, I'll explain in a minute,
Okay.
but I just gotta say this: Dust. If you're listening, we watch a lot of Dust in this show.
Yeah.
We have done a lot. We have covered a lot.
And there's more to come.
So yes. So if you notice a theme, yes, all of these that I'm mentioning are Dust. And if you could actually go into YouTube, find the Dust channel, and they have quite a wide selection of sci-fi. So going back to your question, Eternal Dawn, it was really interesting. It is like a documentary
Interesting.
of humanity once we reach the point where we can manipulate the DNA and you could extend life. As a matter of fact, some point during the interview on this supposed documentary, the person that is being interviewed asked the interviewer, "How old were you? Are you like 4,000 years old? You're young. You'll get it." Um, and that gives you an idea. That comment right there gives you an idea of the type of documentary you're watching, where they have reached a point where humans can live that span of time. So if you can visualize the issues on our planet, you can easily tell that this documentary deals with the fact that they're expanding. They already have colonized the galaxy, and they're planning to colonize not the galaxy, the solar system, and they're planning to colonize other galaxies. So it was a really interesting take on a sci-fi documentary about a fictitious uh, world. As far as we know, it could be another alternative universe.
Yeah.
So, or it could be our future.
Well, I think
It
that the only thing that we need to worry about if we're gonna try to achieve longer span of longevity, which yeah, if you think that living forever makes you mortal, it doesn't. You can still be killed. I just find outrageous when people look at the prospect of living forever as immortality, and that's an erroneous notion.
yeah,
Because if you can be killed, you're not immortal. If you cannot be killed, then you're immortal.
yeah. So yeah, it's interesting how they discovered a solution for a problem. In this case, living longer lives, and created another problem, which is overpopulation.
Yes, yes,
So that was really interesting about the documentary. I recommend it. And the last thing that I watched, it was a very heartwarming movie. It's called World Builder, and apparently, and I don't know if I want to tell you the. Well, we all about spoilers in here, so you might as well just watch it first and then
like a
come back.
racing car on the back.
So go watch, pause us, come back. Um, so basically, this World Builder movie was about this guy that he created this holographic world for his wife, that you don't really tell until the very end that she's basically on a coma. So he's kind of doing all this for his wife to make it feel a home. Apparently, this is in the future where you're in a coma, but you could be connected to a machine that could, in turn, give you holographic images, and you can, go about, while I guess you're being fixed medically. So he actually took it upon himself to, and he was timed. So apparently, this machine will bring her into this holographic world in whatever time. I think it was an hour. So you could see the guy creating the world from scratch. It started with cubes, and ended up in like a. It looks like it was a cityscape, on like maybe Paris, France. He actually created the flowers. It was really heartwarming. You don't quite get it until the very end, but it was really good. So I recommend you guys watch it.
All right.
And that's all for me about sci-fi related stuff.
Well, my sci-fi list, besides Gears of War 5, I've been playing also some Warframe with this mister here. Pretty interesting game. I started yesterday a very interesting anime. Funny thing that you talk about the world building one. This was called Kana in the land of Leddale. And it's about a girl that has been on life support for her whole life. She's a 15-year-old Japanese girl. And basically, she's connected to a VR MMO so she can experience life still. And there's a shutdown in the whole Japan city, and she learned from the AI assistant that she's not alive anymore, but
Ooh.
she is on the world, and she wakes up as an OP, of course. So she's a supposed 300-year-old OP elf girl,
Wow.
but she in reality is a 15-year-old girl. So it's kind of funny, and like she kind of rediscover her life. She understands like she's might not be alive anymore, but I'm here. What the hell? So she's in search of looking for other players and stuff. It's kind of funny and interesting. With a soft tone to it. There's nothing dark so far. So Robert approved.
Yeah.
um, Also, I've been listening as they come out the audio drama from Terra Alpha. Go and check it out.
Yes.
It's an audio drama. It's very short. It's like 3 minutes every episode. There should be 4 episodes right now. The fifth should have come actually this last Thursday, I think, or coming Tuesday. He's trying to post them every week, and it's gonna be a short series. It's gonna be like he told me it's like about 12 episodes total. It is related to a game from the Shadows over Souls, which is a D&D game created by Tap Creations. So go and check them out. They're awesome. Uh, which also I think that we're gonna have some kind of D&D session to cover over the IP. Maybe we actually record also the session, make it more fun for you guys to accompany us on the D&D session about sci-fi.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Um, Also, I've been playing some always Cyberpunk 2077. Can never stop playing that. And that's all for my sci-fi this week.
Nice. Okay, so I guess we are ready for the next segment, right?
Yep.
We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is Sci-Fi.
And if you're new to the show, this is a segment that highlights the hashtag This is Sci-Fi. And this is good for many, many reasons. If you're a creator, you have that one thing that you created is your baby, your creation, and you want to kind of share it with the world. All you got to do is whatever post you're already doing, all you got to do is add the hashtag This is Sci-Fi to it. If you are a fan, like we are, you have, in our case, many. And there could be that one thing, that one sci-fi IP that you enjoy so much, and you're already posting, you're already talking about it, you have passion for it. All you gotta do is add the hashtag This is Sci-Fi, and just let's all follow the hashtag. So what's going to happen is you're going to discover not only from the creators themselves about this sci-fi creation, or from the fans, you can hear the passion that they have for that thing that they love so much. And we could either gain new people that we can talk to about the thing that we love so much. That is great. I mean, this is the reason why we have this podcast, so we can talk about the things that we love so much about sci-fi. And you can gain one more person that you can talk to about the thing you love so much. You could actually engage with creators about the thing that you just discovered, or maybe the thing that you love so much, you get to talk to the creator. Or if you are sometimes in the strange area that we found ourselves in, once we finish that one thing we love so much, and we have this
Emptiness.
yes, it's a sci-fi emptiness in our heart. You can hear the passion in other people on the thing that they liked so much, and for all we know, you can discover something you've never been experienced to, and have another thing that you love and enjoy so much. Which I seen that happen.
Oh, that happens every time when you finish your novella or your soap opera.
No, but I seen people, they had that empty sci-fi heart. They actually go into This is Sci-Fi, find that one thing, and they discover a new love.
Mhm.
You know, this is called finding inspiration. You know, we have the notion like inspiration is just something that happens randomly out of nothing, but it's really the real picture of inspiration is it's um, finding something that someone else is doing and let that affect like interact with you, and then you may find some like may be able to see things different. You may be, oh, I didn't see that way, and then that affects whatever your passion is, and it takes you further, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, I guess we normally ask this question on this show is, have you guys, if you guys had a time to interact with the hashtag, what has been your experience so far for this week? And you can take turns.
Yeah. So actually, I was just looking into it a while ago, and it was very impressive. I was actually very. I saw this post about like the future of video games, and it was like this type of holographic field, and there's people playing a video game, but it's not video; it's holographic game. I don't know if it would be. I would have to change
AR, like augmented reality.
Yeah, it's just like a holographic field, and
Yeah,
then
AR.
So I didn't know that's what that was called. But the point is like it just takes me back to when I was a teenager, and or even a child, a child, and even the idea of FaceTime looked like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
And we FaceTime people, and this
Yes.
happened just like 20 years ago. It was like cell phones were like when they started having
We know the struggle of typing 3 times number 1 to put D on it. We know.
And you see, that's the point. Like back then, it was like a bad Game Boy screen on yours, and that was exciting because you had a color
We
screen.
play Snake on a Nokia.
But the point is that um how many things that that look sci-fi are just 10, 15, just 20 years away. It's less than a lifetime away. So I'm excited for that, and I think that's the inspiration that we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
The inspiration that the more that we interact with something like this is sci-fi and whatnot, um it makes it possible. It allows that gap, which I think the movie we're going to talk about today, uh, it's like it hits it on the nail.
hmm awesome.
Well, for me, I actually, whenever I am constantly on that emptiness, that's what I find myself revisiting series that give me that comfort. And honestly, like I actually, I've been converted shamelessly into a hardcore otaku. Thanks to Ray. Thank you, Ray. I don't appreciate it. And but I try to stay on the sci-fi route, and I have found a couple of good new sci-fis, so I have more shit to put on my list now. Thanks to that, so it can be very fruitful, and I mean I have one of the best, some of the best conversations about sci-fi topics. I was talking to Robert about one of the most legendary conversations. I think it's the writer from oh no, it's the yeah, one of the writers, because there's two writers for arcs, the comic books.
hmm
We got Clicker Sprout, and then we have another guy. I think his name is David. I'm not sure. Or it was Mr. D that follows. He's a voiceover
Oh
on
yes,
Twitter.
Mr. D.
But we have a back and forth, like maybe 20 something threads, like with the maximum words. So that's why we got 20 something threads talking about one of my favorite books that I don't believe I read it, but I did, which is Foundation from Isaac Asimov, you
Yes,
know?
yes.
And we were talking about everything, all the way to the theories about what happens when the universe is completely dead and over. And there's some kind of life steal or some kind of computer going on. What happens then?
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be one of the best gateways for you to find a common interest with somebody that shares with same intensity, passion about IPs that you like.
Yeah. So you heard it here first. Captain Chaos is on his constant sci-fi hollow heart. So start sending all your favorite sci-fi to the hashtag this is sci-fi.
And hate mail too,
Yeah.
sci-fi related.
You too can be part of the movement aside from um, adding the hashtag this is sci-fi. You could actually call our hotline. Yes, we have a hotline. It is 305 It's 1-305-563-6334. Um, just just like you do in the post. Go ahead and leave a message about your passion for that one thing do you enjoy the most. If you're a creator, and this is when I say creator, you could be a director, you could be a writer, you could be a podcaster. It doesn't matter. The only qualification is it has to be sci-fi. You can call that number. You can either, if you're a fan, tell us your passion.
Yeah.
If you're a creator, tell us about your baby. We want to know if it's sci-fi. And of course, uh, we have the best way to reach out to us is our Discord.
Yes. You should go and join our Discord because I mean I'm there every day. We are there every day. That's like where you're gonna find us mostly active, interacting with one another and with our we call it our family. Once you're in Discord, you're family. You're screwed. We're not gonna try treat you with niceties or anything. That's out the door the moment you made it to Discord. It's a rabbit hole, and it just gets deeper and deeper the more you go into it. But the cool thing is that we are present over there every day. Me, I try to stay on my video gaming tab, and I'm streaming most of the time there by myself. Sometimes with friends. Sometimes I'm watching friends. Like the other day, I was watching. I was gonna shout it out, but I'll mention you anyways. Angelus, one of our most beloved friends on Discord
Yes.
and on the Alita Army, and he is like my guy to go to for Cyberpunk. Like I really like getting techie and like deep into the Cyberpunk lore. And I one thing that I like, believe it or not, is MMO strats. I love MMO strats. I actually used to play one with him that even though it's not sci-fi, It's called Ragnarok, and we would get geeky about it and play up till sunrise on that thing. And Cyberpunk is like that. It has a lot of MMO strat building into it for you to build up your character. And I was like at a loss. Like they did a new update, they changed everything on your character building, and what did CD Projekt did? They reset all your stats on how your game's already going. So I was like, I don't know what to do now with this, man. Like, this is something that, and let me know in your comments or write us on Discord about it. But let me know what's your experience. To me building my character happens as I progress on the game. It's not something that you can just reset them all for me and tell me, okay, do what you want. There's so many perks and specializations in the screen, and they put more that I was like, no, I'm just gonna start a new game.
I know what you can do.
What?
You can do what I did with Lunar.
What?
Just start over.
That's what I did. That's what I had to do. But he actually, I was watching him play, and I actually owe him to sit down to watch him again because he's gonna show me also. I don't know if you know, but if you're really a Cyberpunk 2077 fan and you like it, you'll know that Edge Runners left a Easter egg where you can get stuff from the show in the game. So like I know where to find David's jacket, but I didn't know where to find Rebecca's guns. And like
Ooh,
waiting now, Angelus actually is waiting for me to give me a tutorial where to find them because I want to
nice.
get Rebecca's guns, and I am he likes using rifles and snipers. I'm not that much of a sniper guy. I'm more of a shotgun guy. And Rebecca's guns, pink and turquoise, like, oh, I'm dying to get them because he told me they're strong, and I'm a shotgun guy. Like from the three weapons I have, I always have a shotgun on hand.
So as you know, if you don't want to miss all this going on,
Yeah,
you gotta join our Discord. That's where all the stuff we stream. So awesome. Okay, so are we ready for the next segment?
we are.
Are you sure?
I am. You won't surprise me, man.
Gotta be.
Shout outs.
The thing is that he always trying to like push me through the back into the spotlight with the shout outs, but he had half little bit work once, ever, ever,
Once.
and then he's trying to do it again, and it ain't working. You
Yeah,
know,
and we're talking about season 1 and season 2. Once. That's it.
it's like you screw me over once, and then like I congratulate you if you try to do it again and do it. It won't happen. First time, shame on me. Second time, hey, bro. Well, for these shout outs, like I said, I mentioned Angelus, which is a great contributor to keeping the party up lead on our Discord. Um, you're awesome, man, and thank you for all the tips in Cyberpunk. He actually loves also StarCraft, which is very, very sci-fi
Yes.
and very, very inspired. Never knew because I did not grow up watching Warhammer 40K. I didn't know what Warhammer 40K was until I started doing D&D, which by the way I only knew about like not even 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
I actually got more interest on it when I started watching Stranger Things, which I lost interest on. But I saw the all the lore and like how people love to play D&D back in the 80s.
But he enjoyed the rats.
Oh no, I didn't. And the drops, bro. CVS have better things. CVS and the pharmacies have better things than the rats.
So you didn't like the lightsaber?
No, and the Advils and the painkiller Advils. Rats and drop lightsabers and painkiller Advils. Yeah. Also, JJ Hunsecker, always playing good jokes and interacting with us too. You're awesome, man. Terra Alpha, he's being actually pretty active over there. And we actually developed a very, very good friendship because he like very few selected ones. He's part of my Berserker lover club.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm talking about, you're part of the friendship too at the brotherhood. So you should go and join the Discord. Talk to me about it
Just
because
so you know.
I like taking people's take on it. Let me put it this way: Griffith, which is the bad guy on Berserker, is denominated as the worst villain and the vilest piece of ever in the history of manga and anime.
And just so you guys know, I am not a Berserker fan.
No,
So I'm not a member of that club.
I mean you broke down with the Demon Slayer. I wouldn't do that to you. I will have to pay for your psychiatrist after that. And
Now I know not to watch Demon Slayer.
And last but not least, in IG, I wanted to give a special shout out to Jacked Up Reviews Show podcast. Go
Yes.
and check them out. Cam Solar is the best. I actually am working on prepping something for him. Uh, but go and check him out. He's awesome. I love watching his reviews and backgrounds about movies, mostly like pop culture, famous movies, but not limited to that only. And they're pretty cool. You can find it on his IG and then go from there to our website to get it in your favorite platform. They're everywhere. You can type jacked underscore up underscore podcast and go have fun with them. And that's all for today's shout outs.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so are we ready for the next segment?
Yeah.
The Alita Army News.
Hold up, mate. We don't have a mad scientist here today. But
Yeah, Ray, we miss you, man.
yeah, man. Well, he's in the elite army today
I've
because
never
we're
done a
recording this on
podcast
Saturday.
with Ray.
Oh, you enjoy it. He is a character.
Yeah, so for all of you out there, the reason why we want to mention this is especially if you're an Alita fan. If you are a sci-fi fan, you have to be an Alita fan because it's a great sci-fi film. You could actually go to YouTube and find the Alita Army Radio Chaos. They are at the time of recording, they're actually streaming live right now. So you'll probably find this as a recorded, but all the episodes are there on that channel. So if you're a sci-fi fan, if you're an Alita fan, I strongly recommend you go to that YouTube channel and just enjoy it. We in the previous episode we actually took over the stream. The
Yeah.
entire cast of Science Fiction Remnant.
We rated the elite army in Radio Chaos.
So yeah, I invite you guys to go into that YouTube channel and enjoy the conversation. Okay, so are we ready for this?
Oh yeah. More ready than Luffy.
So what we're covering today is a Dust short film called "A Looking Planet." It was I believe 2014. It about just over 16 minutes.
And I can tell you, listeners, you can even enjoy this with your kids. It's wholesome and nice.
It's very
Definitely.
it's very zen, very zen. So if you are um uh,
If you're looking for blood and guts, that's not the place.
well, if you fall asleep easy, just have some coffee prior because it's very zen.
or a monster, it might make it better.
And I think one of the things that sci-fi it has is sometimes there may be a lot of creative freedom with like gory things, and so this is like if you want, how you said, like if you want to have something to watch for your kids, it's perfect, and it's very thought provoking too.
Yeah. So it has it's incredible, but it has something for everyone.
Mhm.
You know, kids could enjoy it and not really realizing the deeper meanings within.
Like me not realizing every time that they made a reference to mathematical equations, I was like, not even gonna try it.
Exactly. As an adult, you can watch this, enjoy, and you might still not get the other messages that the movie has.
The smart
Um,
people reference, I call it.
So I don't. It is so short. I can kind of tell you a plot.
You can watch it on a long poop break.
So, as we say in every episode, just pause us right now. Go into YouTube, look for the Looking Planet. Watch it. It's only 16 minutes, just over 16 minutes, and then come back to us, and we'll actually be waiting. So the I'm gonna just run through the plot. Like many other films that we have done that are as short as this one, it is very hard to find a plot because it's very short. So this whole short film, it centers around a kid. It's
A 14 billion year old kid.
exactly that is in a family of you want to say galactic construction workers.
Yeah.
Like beings.
So these beings are commissioned to work on the solar system. So it's the mother, the dad, the two brothers. Well, the three brothers counting Lufo, which seems to be the main star of the film. He seems to be bored because there's always number one. His dad always complains to him that he does everything wrong, and he's always doing rings like the Saturn rings and stuff like that. He's bored. He doesn't want to do any more rings, and it seems to me that he's more artistic inclined, not like construction inclined like the other ones. So in this film, we see him bored looking at the plans of the solar system, and he encounters what we'll know as the moon. Bare, very boring. I think he calls it hideous.
Yeah.
And he grabs what appears to be a ball, and he uses that to paint over and give it, pimp it up.
To print laser on it, because that thing was like print laser over the papyrus that was like an iPad. So it had
Yeah.
animated images on the paper.
Oh, I want that. That's
Yeah, I
so
want
cool.
that thing, bro.
So basically, the mom was complaining that he's wasting time. So he gets up to go do the rings and said, "You know what? I have a better idea." So he goes over to what he called Hideous, which was what we know as the moon. And he grabs one of those devices that they were using to work on planets and stuff like that. And he actually paints it just like he had it on the plans, how he
Mhm.
designed it. It kind of cuts back to the dad working with the other two brothers, and how one of the brothers was doing one of the asteroids in the asteroid belts incorrectly. And the dad showed him by showing him how
They imply that they were manipulating dark matter in order to create them,
exactly.
which was very interesting reference.
So, one of the brothers was laughing after the asteroid that the other brother was working implodes. And then we cut back to Lufo, realizing that the sun was casting shadows on his creation, the
Because of the
moon,
asteroids.
because of the rings, the
Mhm.
asteroid belts. So he actually decided to move it to the planet Earth. So it'd be a two
Planet 3, phase 22.
Planet 42. Correct. If you are familiar with the movie The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you'll probably understand that reference, and which we actually cover in this.
Mhm.
So then they all basically left the system. Obviously, they were looking for Lufo. Lufo was
Late.
really late. And
Couple of
then,
billion years late.
yeah,
That's a good family if it waits a billion
I'm
years.
telling you. And time, apparently time is not a thing, but let's continue with the plot. And this is my flyby plot because we couldn't find any. So we cut to the end, the family left. It cuts to the darkness space. We see the moon. Actually, no, it cuts to the first amphibious life form on Earth, stepping on Earth for the very first time to the sounds of Neil Armstrong
Yeah.
when they're stepping for the first time on the moon. And then looking up into the moon, we cut to the moon and we see a spacecraft reaching the moon. And roll credits. So
Dun, 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 dun. Oh no, that's Back to the Future.
that's a wrong movie. Okay, so before we move on, I'm going to ask the question that we normally ask on this film, about the film on this show for the first, the very first question.
Are you a virgin?
And the question
No.
is, well, we might be on this short film, right? Because the question is, how old were you when you watched the thing we're covering, and what was your very first impression of this thing? So I guess I can go first. I am a virgin. never saw it before. Today is the very first. Well, yesterday was the very first time that I watched this film. I was really impressed.
2 days in a row? What a hoe.
I was very impressed because I don't think I seen, and I'm trying to think. I don't think I seen a sci-fi film on of any length be as zen as this film is, and also as wide ranged as this one is. I mean, there has been. Don't get me wrong. This a kid could watch it as well as an adult. Someone that is smart about science or someone that is not smart about science could enjoy it equally. And each one of the people that I just mentioned will get something completely different. And the fact that it's very zen, this is the kind of thing that you could actually put on to relax. And that's the reason why I mentioned at the beginning that if you typically fall asleep at movies, you might want to have some coffee before you watch this.
I can tell you that is actually true.
It's very, very zen. Very, very zen.
Relaxing.
And that I really enjoy that on the film. I don't think I've seen a sci-fi film like that before. And not only that, but on top of being zen, on top of being so wide gamma, it has so many impactful messages within the film. And I was really surprised about that.
Like, do your art and disobey your parents.
You know, I
Screw
actually
child labor, intergalactic child labor. No, go do art. Scratch over planets, change the whole cycle, mess up the system.
This is actually to me the message of the show, because that is like the epitome of like by the book physics rule. He's reprimanding one of his brothers because he was doing something, and clearly he shows him that because he was not honoring the physics, that what he was doing was not sustainable, and it's like it's doing like an asteroid. It like deflates, and it's the point, like, we do need physics. It's not like we can just, but I want to talk maybe more into the show. I'll revisit the other part because the artistic part is reflected in Lufo. And that is really what the idea of the film is, that it shows you how Lufo's creativity gave way to the civilization, right? And Bob gave us a really good thought, which again we can visit a little later, so that we're not jumping around. But and to me, it's the idea that it's not like one or the other. It's how both things interact with each other. Because the sustainability of physics and by the book is what allowed Lufo's creativity to flourish in a way. But also, without Lufo's creativity, you cannot envision. You would, and that's what the idea of the movie. What I really like, in the movie, there is like a two paragraphs that the director puts, and the first one goes, and it says, "The Earth is really a double planet. Our moon is much too large in relation to the Earth to be considered just a moon. We now know the formation of double planet like ours is remarkably unlikely. We also know the moon has had a profound impact on the evolutionary of life. Without the moon, Earth's axis would shift wildly,
Yes.
continually wiping out life and preventing it from attaining. I'm sorry, I'm reading this from like a screenshot. Preventing it from attaining complexity, and without its tidal effect on the ocean, life would not have had the help it needs for 380 billion years to emerge from the sea, taking the first step onto land."
Yeah. It is, and again, this is one of the things that I was mentioning as to why I feel there's so many messages within
Hmm.
this film. So before we move on to that, I don't know which one of you want to go next as to answer the question, like, how old were you when you watched this for the first time, and what was your very first impression of the film?
We watched it both together yesterday for the first time,
Okay.
actually. But what was your first impression on the movie?
Now, for me, it's like, you guys know I am. I actually watched it today. Yesterday I was not in a thinking mode. I was more so sleepy mode. No, but
Was
uh,
indisposed.
again, for me, it's I already kind of said it. It is uh, it's the understanding the relationship between chaos and order, right? You could see Lufo's freedom as chaotic in a way, right? Because he's like just he just and started painting the dark side of the moon, which it really brought me to read a little bit on it. But um and he removes the ring that the planet that we know as moon was not the moon at the point of the movie, but the reason why he removes this is because he was just bothered that the ring was keeping the sunlight from hitting the planet. So it was not even something scientific that motivated. It was more artistic, and I cannot picture the moon having steroids floating around it because it would be very very chaotic for. But it really made me reflect on that. We always like to think, and I don't want to like get very psychological, but we always like to think of people OCD, of people like are very tedious, very hard to spend time with or whatnot. But people that are OCD are the most organized people, and if you work with someone that's like that, it makes your job easy. So it's not like traits are not good or bad. They're just channeled properly, and it brought me to think about that a lot.
Interesting. Well, you mentioned about the Zen part. For me, I perceived it more like a sense of adventure and wonders,
Mm,
trying to experience the universe through Lufo. He looks a little bit chaotic or out of place. So for me, is that childlike fun. It actually reminds me of when we used to be kids. What I used to feel like to play around and imagine that the floor was lava, or that you were on an adventure in your backyard because there were a lot of trees and stuff like that. That's what I felt conveyed as a message by watching Lufo experience life, seeing it through his glass.
it's really interesting to me because the writer director of this film was able to convey that message on a cosmic scale.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I think that he also, I think, I will believe this was made purposely or it had a purpose, but there's a lot of clouds
Mm,
on outer space. And to me, that's two reasons. One, to create a sense of a bigger sense of safety. Because when you see pitch black and you're floating over, we already have been trained to feel threatened by it. Because
mm,
everything on outer space wants to kill you. Yes.
yes.
So they cannot delete it that with that. All the other purpose is, since it's way back to the creation of Earth, maybe there were nebulas that have dissipated with time,
Yeah.
that existed in the middle of the system back in the time.
I tend to agree with the latter because nebulae are nurseries.
Hmm.
So if we're talking about the creation of our solar system, it is not hard to believe that there was some sort of nebula first
Yeah,
that coalesced into what we know as the solar system.
absolutely. It makes total sense. That really, really captured my interest as well. And the other thing is, well, we say that Lufo is 14 billion years old. God knows his parents. But you also see a scene beside this, the one of the final when the first fish steps on the earth and looks at the moon.
Oh my
You also
god.
see a scene where he steps on the moon and he sees a footprint appearing of the first astronaut
Yeah.
and then moving away. And it left me thinking that maybe because they are higher dimensional beings, time is not linear like it is for us.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, it is obvious this because if you can tell, when the mom tells him time's wasting, and he responds, "I knew time wasn't a good idea." So that leads me to believe that time is a new concept that
Mhm.
they introduced that Lufo was against of.
Yep.
So it brings to point what you were saying, that these are obviously they are four-dimensional beings.
Yeah.
So there are
Or higher dimension at all. God knows if higher than a
it
fourth.
wasn't really specified. They're obviously not third-dimensional beings.
Mhm.
So anything that is not third-dimensional being, time is irrelevant.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing is, I will believe that they can say ripples of time depending of their choices. If you notice, when he saw that footprint on the moon, it's when he decided he was want to work on the moon and he stepped on it because the paper took him. If that doesn't happen, he doesn't really would have moved the moon from there.
Yes.
But when he actually put into effect that he was going to move the moon, the reality that human eventually billions of years after will step over it became reality. And I think that he visualizing that footprint coming and going in front of him was the ramification of that reality taking an actual step toward becoming something.
Yeah. Oh yes.
You guys are just, although you're saying, just making me think of so many quotes from the movie Interstellar. Um, but and the I guess the director, if I want to step into his mind, he starts by saying how the moon is so foundational and essential to the existence and coexistence of humanity, and the whole movie is about how um the establishing of the moon was so creative for the character Lufo. It was literally a spring of inspiration from the moment that he begins. Like he's spraying like with something, and it creates what's called the dark side of the moon.
Mhm.
Um,
Well,
mhm,
not necessarily the dark side, but he creates
mhm,
the darker
The-
shades that the
mhm.
moon
Okay.
naturally that we see
that we
as
see,
naturally.
because
Yeah.
remember, the moon doesn't have it's not that it's a dark side, it's that because it's elliptically locked to the
Mhm.
earth, we never see the other side.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it is dark because we
We
never
don't
see
see
it.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Right.
not dark because it's dark.
Mhm.
Well, it might be dark
Well, because it's
if it's.
elliptically locked, we turn around, so she's always giving it back to the sun.
Mhm.
But still, it's not like if it turns around, doesn't have shades.
To be honest with you, if you think about it, in certain occasions, the dark side of the moon is actually brighter than the
When
light
there's a solar eclipse with the moon over it.
when the sun is in the other side.
Yeah. you know yeah, the dark side of the moon, it's a very ironical perception
Mhm.
of our world, of our universal view, because we think that it's dark, but it's just because we don't see it. That doesn't mean that it doesn't ever gets light on the other side.
And what is light and dark but the reflection of light particles bouncing off an object and entering our human eyes?
Yep.
So it's not a galactic term
What
by
is
any means.
color?
That's true. That's true. The other thing that got me thinking very deeply is about the 14 billion year old Lufo. It's and funny that you mentioned Interstellar, but if they are on a system that has a different gravitational pull that changes the path of time and reality for them completely at a more accelerated pace. Like, I don't know if you remember when they went down to the planet and it was just like 5 hours for them, and when they came back, it was like 10 years for the guy that was waiting for them.
23, I think. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that could be the reality of them could be affected by that as well. And I think that they are very subtle in playing all of these little theories of outer space in the most unnoticeable ways.
Well, the quote that you mentioned starts with time reflection. Like, what is he's actually saying is like, wait an eon. So if you convert that to what we normally say, it's like, wait a minute. They're saying wait an eon. That is mind blowing. That you can compare a minute of our time scale to an eon.
Mm-hmm.
I miss that.
It's
That's
like,
pretty
wow.
insightful.
Yep.
So that's actually how we started the show. It's like, wait an eon, Lufa's still missing, and that, I mean, yeah, that was mind blowing to me. So it plays into what you were just saying, but I also want to take it a little farther than that, to where they are like that because for them time doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I believe, and this is something that I have discussed, and again, it's all theory. And again, I'm going to put a disclaimer. I am not a scientist. I am not an astrophysicist. It's just a thought experiment that I have had. And I have this conversation so many times where it comes a time, depending on what dimension you're from, and again, I don't know, is it a 10th dimension, whatever that might be. It doesn't matter, but it comes
Come and
to,
let us know.
but it comes to, if you're a 10-dimensional being, we want to have you on the show. But we might have a problem, having it on camera, but yeah.
Do we have a couch big enough?
So what I'm trying to say is that it comes a time where time is really irrelevant, to the point where a minute for this being could be 10,000 years for us, or a year for this being could be a second for us. Now, think about that for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds chaotic, and it sounds like I'm making no sense. It's either one or the other. No, it's all at the same time.
Yeah.
It could, they could take a year, and it could be a minute for us.
Yep.
And they could take a second, and it could be 20 years for us.
I could take it up a notch if you want to, and explain it in a different way. Time is a human fabrication.
Mhm.
If you remove our finite biological life, time doesn't really exist for a rock. Time doesn't exist for the water on the oceans. What, if you want to call it something, they're just cycles, day and night, day and night. It doesn't move forward, doesn't move backwards. It just switch from on and on, just like the seasons. They repeat continuously as cycles, but there's not a moving forward. What determines what happened in time is the events within those time frames, and without events, there is absolutely no time to count for.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, the reason why I was mentioning that is also not only to agree with your point, but I wanted to make a point based on that same scene that you're talking about, when Lufo is looking at that footprint that appears and disappears on the surface of the moon. Because these beings are what I explained, how time is really not irrelevant. Let me put it in perspective. Have you ever were sitting down on a couch, for example, and remember something you did last week? All of a sudden, just randomly. And that's something common for us. Because we are linear. We can only recall our past because our present is what dictates that, but we can't see the future,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If you are not linear, if you are a being higher than 3 dimensions, then you're circular. And just try to follow me here, because this is a thought experiment. You're at a circular, not linear time. So if you apply what I just said, you're able to remember things that have not happened yet. And what I think
If you manage to make it happen.
now, we see shadows, just like we
Mhm.
see shadows when we remember something that happened in the past.
Deja vu.
Our brains will actually and forever change our memories. So whatever we remember now, that like say for today, right, will never be exactly what really happened because every time you recall that memory, depending on how you're feeling,
Hmm.
you will change that memory and put it back in
It's
storage.
like playing the phone game with your own mind.
Now fast forward to these beings. These beings are able to do the same for future events and they see shadows
Mm.
because it's always malleable and they're able to see all different variations. And this is the reason why I said in other shows that beings like that would be the perfect time travelers because they'll know what changes need to be done to get to the
Mm.
actual best result possible. Then us that are three-dimensional beings, they have no idea, and we're making changes that could actually be worse for
Hmm.
us. So he is seeing shadows of future memories on this thing. And I find that really impressive.
Mhm.
Not sure if this was intended by the writer director, but this is how I see it. It's like just like we remember the past and what we did last week, Luffy was remembering something of a shadow of what will happen on the moon.
Hmm.
And based on that, because he was that type of being, whatever dimension he's on, he's able to take the best possible changes to make the best possible results to achieve what he wanted and what he finds to be happy. Do you agree with that?
Yep.
Yep, I fully do. And so in a way, even his artistic freedom was informed by something, by an experience, by a memory of the future. So, um, so that is just something to consider. And in the same way, like one day is like 1,000 years, 1,000 years is like a day. Even the concept of distance is quite
Mhm.
interesting in the movie because when he is drawing and creating the shades of the movie, the dark parts, the scene makes it look like he's standing at a gigantic scale, like 20 meters away from the moon, doing these changes. But then the map falls in the moon, and it's like it falls really far away into the moon. So it's almost like it creates that illusion that oh, so is he like close or not? And then he steps on the moon and he does recalls that memory um for the future, right, of men stepping in the moon. And in a very realistic way, remembering the past does affect our future,
Mhm.
and if we don't want to repeat mistakes in life, we always want to remember the past, which inadvertently it's affecting our future. Let me just give you a very practical example. You're getting out of your house, and you're supposed to be in a place in 5 minutes, and you're out of the house and you forgot you left your phone. You're not going to be there in 5 minutes because now you have to go back for your phone. So remembering something totally changed how you went about your day. So, in a very practical way, this is something besides what we were saying.
Basically, change your future by not screwing up again.
This is something besides the point. I'm not making a parallel into what we were saying, but just trying to say how, even in a very practical way, having a memory of the past would always affect the future.
Yeah. So this is a kind of conversation, right? That this 16-minute long film cost for us. And if you listen to the show long enough, this is not a surprise. I mean, what was Raw? Raw was it
Raw was 5 minutes, and
five
we talked
minutes
for like 2 hours.
exactly? But if you compare it to Raw, this movie is on par
Yeah.
with the kind of deep meanings that we can derive
Oh
from it.
yeah, no, there's a lot of things that even went over my head that I did not even bother to really ponder about. Like the equational parts, I'm sure that there is an actual meaning into it. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but you see those rings around the floating planets, and actually, I thought that was light power sources, but those were floating cranes.
Yeah.
Actually, there are like lines of floating cranes over this clouded floor that is not floor. It's just to kind of erase the sense of void in outer space. That's
Mhm.
what we call it, nebula. But I would like us to, like, if you have any other suggestions or theories about what could it be, by all means, because there's no such a thing as really real clouds on outer space. So that must be a nebula of some kind. Uh, but besides that, I don't know if you noticed when he starts pushing the moon, there were rings with writings and scriptures interlocking the planet that will go off. And when he leaves the moon where it goes, it starts popping back in. And he also has one of those on the back of his head
Yeah.
in some kind of alien language. And I would venture to say it tries to infer there's some sort of angel because angels have
You know,
halos.
I was thinking about that. Yeah.
And I mean, just like an angel is a celestial being, the planets or anything in outer space floating on the void of the vastness of everything is a celestial body too.
Yeah.
So every planet or thing that you see placed on the middle of nowhere has those things interlocking it in its place with some kind of dark matter engineer into it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the secret is dark matter
Yes.
and anti-gravity or
Think about
learning
it. Dark
gravity.
matter, I will venture to say, has more than 90% of what exists out there in this interstellar space is dark matter.
Yeah. So we have a message for CERN, right?
Yeah.
CERN, if you're watching, if you're listening, please, we need anti-gravity soon.
Yeah,
Please.
against some antimatter. Don't get the Hadron Collider to make freaking dark matter or a black hole without some kind of antimatter. Because a quarter size one will be enough to really suck us in. Uh, the other thing,
We're
just
warned.
yeah, yeah. The other thing that I found very curious is I don't know if you noticed that there he has something on the paper that looks like a three-dimensional DNA,
Yeah.
but it grows out of the chart of the moon
It's a
and it becomes a set of planets. And to me, that is the actual solar system moving elliptically on itself forward in the middle of outer space.
it has a lot of parallels because it starts as a Fibonacci
Yeah,
symbol, and I never really thought about it until I watched this. But if you would get that and turn it to an angle, it could potentially look like a DNA strand, like we saw in here.
like this.
Yes, it would. It would
And that's
technically.
a solar system, actually. Every
And that
circle is a solar system.
in the solar system, see, many people don't realize this. When you look at the solar system, and you have this vision of the
Like turning
sun.
around itself.
The sun is in
No.
the middle, and the planets go around the sun. Not really.
It's doing this like this.
So it looks like a DNA strand
Yeah.
Mm.
where all of them are
So,
like swerving.
so in a way, if you were to draw the passage of time in one scene, and like you would like how to say
In a three-dimensional aspect.
interpose into the same image, it would eventually look just like a DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, just to make it simpler, it is quietly very they say that there's nothing impossible for science, but this is very impossible. It is impossible for you to be in the same exact place in the universe after this second that just happened that you're watching this.
Improbable, not impossible. Improbable.
Nah, bro.
You know, do you
I'll call dibs on impossible
Improbable.
there.
do you remember when you showed me the documentary Cosmos
Mhm.
with Neil deGrasse, and like there's a scene, and I think he's in the first episode, where he looks up, he looks far into space and the Milky Way, and then he looks far into the human body. Is that from Cosmos, right? I'm not.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the idea is that the picture of space, the way that planets coexist with each other and galaxy, it's almost like there's a parallel inside the human body too. The way that
Well,
atoms,
It has
he
to.
says it himself. We are made out of
it's
stardust.
almost like the the dynamics of a galaxy, it's also the way that our bodies operate. So it's like almost as we're all part of one big
Textual words.
being.
Textual words for Neil deGrasse. We are made out of stardust.
We are celestial bodies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's nothing other than celestial. We are, and this is something. It's a misconception, and I believe that's the reason why we have so many wars on this planet. Is people don't realize we live in a spaceship, a very, very delicate spaceship.
Moving at an incredible, unfathomable speed.
And people don't realize this. I mean, this is all we have. If we destroy what we have, there's no other place to go. And
there's no Mars, buddy. No.
No, not
Mars
yet.
is like minus 75 with hydrogen mostly. Like you would choke and freeze and fly and hit something very fast because there's like hundreds of miles per hour of winds, storms. No.
Everything in Mars wants to kill you. But going back to the point, if people would realize where we are, and it's kind of hard to see because the thing is that we all live via our perspectives, right? And this planet kind of fools perspective. All you got to do is go to any beach, look into the horizon, and it feels like this huge, immense thing. But in the cosmic scale, we're in a very fragile spaceship, and we're fighting over land.
Yep. Better start farting to create enough greenhouse gases. So if I fart and nobody else notices it, did I really fart?
Yes.
Well, there was a space and time. Like the little plant next to you, if it dies,
that will be my secret with it. It will be my
testify.
dear little secret with the universe because like you guys would smoke it and not know because it was odorless.
Yeah. But moving on.
So the economy. I'm kidding. It's we're all made out of dust, you know, and you guys know I'm a Christian, so that's what the Bible says.
From dust to dust.
He made men out of dust, and regardless of your belief, the same thing that it's in the ground on trees, it's the same thing that made the human body.
That's why I sometimes hug a tree, but sometimes they're assholes, bro, and they just attack me with ants.
We're gonna talk to
and
them.
It makes me want to chop it down.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just again the movie, back to it, is very thought provoking and bringing it back to what the moon represents for humanity. You know, the first paragraph that he talks about. You know how fragile we are as a planet, to the point that we have been able to discover millions of light years and be able to see, and we haven't find anything like it.
You want me to oversimplify what the moon is? It's our tidal regulator, Rock.
But you know, this movie is there's a topic that you guys brought up by mentioning that is, if you look at the dad's plans for the solar system, the moon was supposed to be an outside rock, like where close to where like Pluto is supposed to be.
I thought it was Uranus.
And if you notice, everything has, well, mostly everything has rings, which is kind of normal, I guess. If you look at most of the planets, very thinly, but yes. So going back to what you mentioned, an artistic inspiration within this film from Lufo was enough to get him to be there. I mean, because otherwise, if it wasn't because that planet was there and he was bored, right, and he decided to scribble on it to try to fix something that was hideous, right, he would never really be interested enough to like change his mind. Because remember, he was going to go out to do rings. It's like, oh God, I got to go rings. And then because he had that inspiration, that moment of inspiration, he decided, you know what, I'll do something different this time because I really don't want to do rings. And he went to the moon. And that,
beyond.
yeah. Well, technically beyond. I mean,
No,
at
he went to
edge
the
of
moon and back.
he was not as simple as that because it was at the edge of the solar system. So
Yeah.
that takes a new meaning. But he was able to go there, and that actually led to a chain of actions that culminated with us having the moon next to us.
And they didn't want him to do it, but when he comes back, the father actually smiles, pleased of what he did.
He was like, and it seems like it's kind of funny. He's like,
Yeah,
I'm going to lose
the
my
father
pension.
didn't argue against it at all.
No,
Like,
he
it
smiles.
was like,
He smiles in approval quietly because he was like, he's grumpy the whole movie.
Mhm.
And at the end, he's like, he's bothered because Lufo is lost. So like, what the hell? Where are you so far?
When he was moving the moon, he's freaked out.
Yeah.
Which-
and then when he sees what he does, he actually smiles in approval quietly.
Which, funnily enough, he says we're late, even though
Yes.
they're not bound by time. He says we gotta go, we're late. So, but you were saying,
Yeah, no, but you're right. I mean, it sounds they're not bound by time,
Mhm.
but based on the comment from Lufo, I feel that it's something that is a concept they created, and they are
Mhm.
trying to
Yeah.
abide by it.
Yes.
Oh, and you know Lufo is bothered by it because he's like, I knew that wasn't a good idea. So yeah, and I think that was very clever writing if you
Mhm.
think about it,
Yep.
because it is still obvious they're not bound by time.
Mhm.
For all we know, that whole 16-minute that we saw could span in 300 billion years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
True.
Yep.
But because they're that type, and as a matter of fact, another thing that you brought in, a concept of size, I don't think they're bound by that either.
Mhm.
So
You saw what I meant by the
Mhm.
scene, right? Like, he's just like drawing on the shadows, and if you look at it and you don't see any other scene, what it looks like is he's just standing like 20 feet away from an object, just doing this drawing. But then when the map falls into the moon, it's like it falls away far into space, like, and then he has to go after it, and he has to step on the moon. So keep going. I just wanted to elaborate a little more on it.
yeah, and you know, I was agreeing with your point there because just remember, I mean, we're looking the solar system is a solar system that exists within a third dimensional space. Just remember this. And these people, well, these beings, are not third dimensional beings for many of the reasons that you are given throughout watching this short film. So it's kind of hard to put it in perspective, but you have to point to the fact that they are not third dimensional beings and they're interacting with three dimensional
Mhm.
objects. So that's the reason why I said yes, they're not bound. In addition to not being bound by time, they're not being bound by size.
Yep.
And I find that to be so clever
Oh yes,
because
absolutely.
they're doing it in a way that they do not. I mean, granted, like we spoke at the beginning of the show, you might not get the concepts right, but it's not that you. I mean, you hear us and you're like, "Oh my god, this is so complex. I might not even understand watching this." No, you watch this. A kid can watch
Hey,
it.
if I got it, you'll get it.
A kid can watch this and not be confused. You're not going to be confused. The
Chaos
reason-
was not confused.
Chaos
So
was not
nobody
confused.
will be confused.
It's just, you know, in this show, you know what we do. We dissect.
Yep.
Yeah, for me, it's like one of the greatest argument. So essentially, it's what you said before the show, and what Gio just mentioned a while ago. It's the idea of celestial beings, right? Whatever that may be, which it's very extraterrestrial, like ET, like the beings on
Going home. He looked like
so,
E.T. but
so,
uglier.
so I don't want you to think that there's any religious aspect about it, but the idea is that and that's probably like for someone who considers themselves an atheist, it's one of the hardest thing to argue against the fine tuning of the universe, and this movie comes to brings that forward, right? even the artistic freedom that the character, the main character takes. It's really like bound, like not bound, but finished by order, because then those rings begin to appear again, right? Uh, I think it was purposely the. I think that, and I'm here. I'm speculating. The director really wanted to inspire uh, us to understand the the potential of the creative freedom, but he also didn't want it to disregard the order that brings, you know, the science, the formulas, the because there's that scene where he reprimands the older brother, right?
Yeah, it's not finger painting. This
R-
is physics.
right. So and that's actually something like that. He says, do you think that you can just grab your fingers and do whatever? But definitely it exalts that idea of the potential of seeing far ahead in time. And that's again the way that the moon rotates in its axle, how you were saying, the way that it affects and allows for earth life to flourish, right? The way that it affects the growth, the seas, the seasons, that gives us this earth that it's so beautiful, so fragile, but yet so
Sturdy.
yeah,
Very
terrifying,
majestic.
so majestic. It really is. It's hard for you to it how they say, it takes more faith for you to think that it happened randomly. It's just it's more likely to be the case that there was a celestial being, the way that the movie projects. But that brings us up. I want you to touch on something that we spoke around the kitchen,
Mhm.
um about the end of the movie, where like the creature, I don't know if you want to save
Yeah.
that for a little later, but it was really insightful what you said, like how uh um
Well,
the you foresaw something, and then it allowed for human flourishing, and then there's this other creature that emerges from the sea, and you see the reflection of the moon in their eyes, and then it allowed for something. You were
yeah, and if you're familiar with theories, scientific theories, and I think this is in the realm of paleontology or even history, the planet, because thankful to the moon, just like in this movie says at the very beginning on the writing, it was able to make it stable enough that we have some, I believe, it's amino acids that coalesced into beings for the first time on this planet, on planet Earth, and those beings turn into uh, water beings that eventually became um, uh, beings that were amphibious.
Hmm.
So they started going up above the water
Mhm.
and breathe the air. And eventually those beings touch ground for the first time. And this scene, and I had to mention this because it actually got me goosebumps, because of the way how the director did it in this film. When you see this amphibious being touching the land for the very first time, which is in history books, if you read back, and you probably heard this in school, um, it is the very first time, and they play the sounds of the astronauts stepping on the moon for the first time. And you can hear that as the background music to this theme. And then you see this being looking up at the moon. Now, granted, we don't know what really happened, right? We're only dictating this based on scientific evidence and geological evidence and stuff that we put together to realize how life began. Um, but it is not very difficult to think that this being could have maybe looked up as well. This is a new environment, land. It's kind of like us stepping on the moon for the first time. That's the actual feeling that took around this event. It was a world changing event. He's looking at the land. He's looking at the skies. He's never seen the sky.
Mhm.
Maybe he looked it up at night and saw this glowing, bright body circling our planet. And not knowing that in the future of this planet, and thankful to this being, because this being is responsible for populating. I mean, you have monkeys coming out of this being. You have, and I'm saying it, I'm just fast forwarding when I say this, but through evolution, this being is responsible for populating the planet with not only animals, birds, but also humans, right? So it's the grandfather or the great 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 grandfather of everything on Earth, looking in the moon, not realizing that somewhere in the future, its children will actually step foot on the moon.
Artemis.
And that is the reason, yeah, Apollo, Artemis. Um, that is the reason why I got goosebumps.
Mm.
I really, really got goosebumps
Mm-hmm.
because, and that was, purposely done, but I think it was beautifully done on this film, where it gets you. And I know most people might not get that. You watch that film, oh, it's interesting, but you don't if you put the context into it, it becomes a bigger scene than what it actually
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, and that's the same thing. I was right there with you when you mentioned it to me, because it's like, so if whatever that being was stepping into dry land for the first time was what we have to society, as the world, the civilization, and all that, what is for men stepping on the moon,
Mhm.
parallel to what stepping on dry land was to that being. And we're just like, we're just in, not even, we say in diapers, no, we're not even in atoms compared to what the potential of space travel, and what space represents for humankind.
Yeah.
The same way that probably that creature, that person, didn't understand what stepping on dry land for the first time was to them.
Yeah. And that leads me to think about another topic that we were talking about, time travel. Everything that happened on planet Earth, from the distance and position and rotation of the moon to the rotation of the planet to its position in comparison to our sun, everything played like a very well um, orchestra. It's a perfect recipe, right, to the creation of those amino acids on the
Distance from the
waters.
sun, everything.
So imagine there was a scene. If you're a Star Trek fan, you'll probably remember this. I can't remember the name of the actual episode, but this is the episode where Q, Q being Q, um, just from the Next Generation grabs Picard and takes him back to the past of Earth. And they are in front of a puddle of water. And Q mentions, there's where the amino acids are. That scene, to me, is one of the scariest scenes ever. Because he can sneeze and things could be horribly wrong.
Oh,
So
the moon could have ended inside of Earth for the wrong bush.
we came from that so-called puddle, from those amino acids that coalesced within and form whatever we end up being in the future. So when I said we as time travelers are a horrible species because we are only because we are linear in time and we can't see. So let's say, for example, you travel and you encounter a puddle, you have no idea where you are, and you step on it, you no longer exist because you had no idea.
Yep.
So yeah, I just had to
The,
mention that
the,
because we're talking about time travel.
there's so much that we don't understand about. We think that just to give you a picture, and this is a thought that has fascinated me a lot. This probably has not much to do with the movie, but it's the understanding of of let me just go ahead and say, infrastructure, cities, eh, um, there's so much that happens because New York would have never become New York without the Manhattan Bridge. It was the ability to get to that island with that so easily that allows so much civilization to concentrate on that island, right? So an infrastructure which seems something so material, so affects human flourishing so much. Time traveling, we don't understand. We can't even begin to understand the repercussions, and then to be able to do that without the understanding of repercussions. It's so dangerous at this, but it's not for us to be afraid of it, but it's for us to maybe have the provoking conversation about it. How is that going to affect my family the moment that I know I can visit someone who's no longer with me? How is that going to affect um, uh, being able to visit a child that when I'm my child in the future when I'm not even married? You know, is that going to be positive? Is that going to cause me to treat my children in a way that might be a hindrance to himself? Probably just going down a rabbit hole right there. But it's just like how our linear way of seeing things. It's very limiting when it comes to understanding time.
Hmm.
Yeah, it could be very detrimental for you
Hmm.
because, and let me put this another concept. I am of the belief, just like many other scientists, of the theory of the multiverse and how there are infinite amount of universes with infinite amount of views in them. And we have talked in previous episodes on how you are the person who you are today because of your experiences at your surroundings. So if you, for example, made a clone of you when you're born and you submit them to different experiences in different surroundings, they're not one person. They will become two separate beings,
Hmm.
two separate people with different thought processes. Even if you clone your, let's say, for example, I clone myself as I am now, it will take some time before because from the moment that this other being is created, it starts diverging from what I am to eventually become someone completely different. So no two people are truly alike, even if they have the exact same DNA.
Mm.
So that supports the idea of a multiverse. So if there's other people in another universe, on another, you know, uh, one of those multiple universes that we have, they are obviously going to have different surroundings and different um, um, upbringing, education, and they're going to turn. And that's why you see in movies like, this person in this universe is a thief, and here's a lawyer, and another one is a president. There's l- unlimited possibilities of the actual result of that being. So why am I bringing all this? Is because I am of the belief that, and I'm sure I'm not. There's I have had conversations where half the people that I talk to do not believe this, and the other half does. Right? I'm of the belief that if you travel, for example, I go and kill my grandfather. Right? In the paradoxical
Disappear like
belief,
Marty.
in the paradoxical belief, like you mentioned, you disappear. I believe because of quantum and how the mechanics work, that's not true.
You change
I
physically.
believe that it's just like in Steins Gate, where you move from one um, alternative universe to another. So you are living in an alternative universe where You killed your granddad, but he's still alive. Because you killed him on an alternate universe, and you're in the one where he's still alive because you're still alive.
Mhm.
And if you're able to go back to that universe, there's not going to be a you in there because your grandfather died.
Mm.
So I know I had these conversations. Half the people believe this, half the people don't. So if you want to join the conversation, please join our Discord. Let me know which bank are you in and what your thoughts are on that.
So one universe or alternative universe?
An alternative universe.
Yeah.
That
Tin granddaddy or tin no granddaddy?
So I wanted to bring that because we're on the
Mhm.
topic of, not knowing what we're doing and how detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
We will be detrimental because we are moving universes
Mhm.
when we do that. In the
Mhm.
sense of what you were mentioning,
Mhm.
As we know, future and past affects, and there has actually been a study that shows that future events will affect our past, even though we are linear.
Yep. Yep. Well, and I always like to bring it down to the practical, um n- not because I don't believe in like the more complex picture of it, but that's what helps me understand that if in the practical there's a rational way into it, then there's got to be a more complex understanding of it too. But just like, um you know um just like when we were children, there was maybe certain restrictions given to us by our parents, and we hated them for it, right?
Which of course we broke.
Mhm. Right. So in my picture, I had, just in that picture, I had a miserable childhood because they didn't let me go out play outside with the people that I wanted to go play outside. But then in the future, I grew up, I matured, and I look back, and maybe the people that I wanted to play outside with ended up in bad places. And now I'm grateful. So, I mean, it was the same past, but my past changed. And I understand that I had a good childhood because I was kept from the bad things that could have happened for me. So it's the same event, but my future did change my past, right? And it changes the way that I look into things, and it changes my decision making in the future. Understanding my past differently now is gonna now change my future. How, like, probably it's a way into understanding that circular
Mhm.
way to look into time and space.
Definitely.
What you got, Chaos?
I was going to ask, in this film,
Oh, buddy, you don't want to pull me into that rabbit hole of grandfather killing theories again. We have this conversation way too many times.
Chaos would be, then how many times can I kill my grandfather?
Oh no, I'll go into like Jet Li, the one style.
So the question that I was going to ask is, in this film, if there was one scene that you remember after watching this film and that really impressed you, called your attention, it was something of a wow moment for you, what that scene was? And we could actually take turns. I think I went into what my scene was.
Yeah.
Is the ending of the film. It was very impressive to me.
Mhm.
I got my skin just,
Mhm.
yeah, I got, it was very well done.
Mm.
And that was my scene. So I don't know if you guys had a different scene that you can.
The one with the moon, the footprint coming up, kind of
Mm.
gave me that aha moment. But my
Mhm.
favorite scene was when the father smiled, pleased in silence about what he was doing with the moon. So remember, kids, when your parents tells you not to do something, go and do whatever you want. You might actually do something good by doing that.
There's a reason why we call him Captain Chaos.
At the end, he's going to be pleased. No,
He's gonna
that's
be
not how
pleased.
it works. That's not how
Go
it
and play
works.
with the matches.
No,
No. I'm just kidding.
we're all
Well,
still a work in
there's a reason
progress.
why we put in YouTube that our content is for kids.
Yes.
So if you're a
Yeah.
kid and you're watching this without your parents, go and
Yeah, shame on you.
yeah,
Yeah, shame on you.
yeah.
You see, you see,
Space Santa Claus is not
you
gonna
see
give
that
you
they
gifts.
say we're all diamonds in a rough. Well,
Well,
I
rough
think
here.
else is just like a little rougher
No,
than most.
I'm rough on a diamond.
So his edges are really sharp still. For me, again, our conversation about that scene was it really like blew me away. But for me, it was there's a scene in which after he has put the moon where it's at, they uh they make this shot that has the moon and it has the earth, and there's a lot of light reflecting off of the
Ooh.
planets, and then they show Luffy, and he has a wonder in his face about it. He has a wonder, like a very childlike wonder, like very marvel, totally astounded. And and it makes me think in the Bible there's this verse where um it says that God created the earth and he saw that it was good. And it just makes me think of maybe he saw the potential of what he had done there, the
Mhm.
flourishing, the wonder.
God's name was Luffy.
Wonder is it's a way it's a when you think of wonder, it's the idea of possibilities.
Mhm.
You're wondering where's that gonna go, and it's just like it's so beautiful because it's filled with wonder. And that's to me what that scene is. It's like wow, wow. And then you go back to when you understand a little more and you can say wow again, and then like you understand a little more about what the moon does. And believe me, I went down on Google and just look for facts about the moon, and I'm like, wow, look what the moon, I didn't know the moon meant so much for us. And then it's more wow. It's kind of like as you grow, you understand more, then you understand magnitude of events even more, and then you can say wow to things that you already knew, but now you know even more. So that scene was very impactful for me too.
Yeah, it was a beautiful scene. I mean, the whole movie was very beautiful.
The
Is
Zen.
Zen. It's
Mhm.
just pleasing to the eyes.
Mhm.
So when I say this scene in particular
I'm
was
sorry to interrupt, which is in and of itself a very a great accomplishment by the director and the creative artist, because when you think of space, you just think of darkness and emptiness and space, and the whole movie is in space, and you don't really think of any of that at all, which
yeah.
it just adds a layer of wonder, of beauty about it. But you were saying.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. I was gonna say that when I say that this scene was just plain beautiful. I
Mhm.
mean, you could see the very delicate atmosphere of Earth, which is something that fills me with wonder and scares me at the same time because it is so thin, and that's what's keeping everything alive. You could see that in here. You could see the moon and that sun reflecting from the oceans back into your
Mhm.
eyes. It is very very impressive.
Mhm.
And I would have to congratulate the artist and the creators of this because the movie was beautiful. That scene was just wow. It's a beautiful, beautiful scene.
So I was debating between that scene and the one that you pointed. So I'm glad you pointed that one, so then I could point this one.
uh, okay, so are we at the point
Yeah,
where we ask that question?
I think we are.
Oh, we're gonna ask that question.
It's a 16 minutes movie, man.
Yeah, we're gonna ask that question. If you're new to the show, you're about to know what that question is. If you follow the show, you know the drill. The question is, and let me explain it. This will actually play differently. It was a movie. If it was a movie that you watched a while ago and watched multiple times, it just takes a different meaning for this particular movie because we all saw it recently. But the question is, what is your last impression of the film? And I'm accounting for the range from the very first time you watched it to the very last time you watched it and every interaction in between. I watched it about 3 times since yesterday.
Me too.
Um, so I would not. I want to say that my answer would relate to my last impression. It's not going to change. And the reason why I usually ask this question is because something you mentioned earlier, the placed on what we said in previous episodes, your perspective will always change. And we have, if you follow the show long enough, you know, some movies that we have watched in our childhoods, in our rewatch for this film, we realize, whoa, there's a lot more here. It's because your perspectives change.
Hmm.
You can watch this film tomorrow and you'll have a complete different reaction than what you have today because our perspectives change. Not to say if you watch this a year in the future. So the question is, what is your last impression of the film? I don't know if you want me to go first. Or you
I can
wanna...
go first.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that this movie is, like I said, very friendly for all ages, and I think that that's a beautiful thing. I think that a child can enjoy it as much as somebody that enjoys a lot of complex theories about outer space. I think that the writers did a great job finicking around those things in a very playful and disguised manner.
Mhm.
And I think it's a movie that you can watch more than one time and get more and more out of it because it's loaded with a lot of micro references about equations, about outer space, about physics that will keep you entertained. Unfortunately, no, Mr. Director, I'm not going to go back and read those equations and even bother to solve them. But if somebody likes them, there you go. More homework for your brain.
More power to you.
More power to you. But I think it's a very fun movie. It has a very relaxed atmosphere with a sense of wonderment and adventure, which it's kind of odd to be able to achieve that in outer space, being what it is. So I think it's one of a kind if you think about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's my last thought about it. I would definitely suggest the movie. Anybody to watch it.
Okay.
Awesome. Want me to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for me, it's the same. I watched it twice. Uh, I watched it
Twice and a half.
twice and a half. Yeah, and then he watched me once. Um, no, but yeah,
Well, there you
it
go. If
was.
you look at the boy long enough, the boy looks back to you. Same thing with movies.
But to me, it was. So if I would call the movie something, I would call it uh, a beautiful allegory. A beautiful allegory made of physics, made of um, and a very I would call that a beautiful allegory. It's something that you need to understand because things like that. And that's one thing to say about sci-fi. Um, Sci-fi, it's something with element of reality, but the reason why what sci-fi does is that it
Deviating.
transcends reality in a way, and it allows you to dream into a future, near future, into possibilities, right? So uh and that's the beauty of allegory or even parables with which you convey truth that it transcends reality. And but the movie is definitely an expression of that for me. um I commend the author for I want to see that he must have been very aware of what he was doing as far as like trying to understand the limitations of always being rigid and by the book the way the father was. um that is very short sight when it comes to understanding society and humanity. And then he exalts, rightfully so, the beauty of dreaming and all that, but he never undermines the power also and the necessity for physics and all that. So that dichotomy, that's the word, between like the freedom and restrictions, so it was wonderful. And I think if you're a dad and you want to talk about something with your children, this movie, it's a gateway into a wonderful conversation for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna say I echo everything that was said so far. Um, this film just it was just beautiful. And in different aspects, visually, um, also audibly, and for the brain. It, it's it, it it was a masterpiece in a way that, like I said at the beginning of the film, in like Captain Chaos mentioned just a few minutes earlier, it is for everyone. Everyone can enjoy this film and get something different, and that's a great thing. Um, but this could lead to, like Ricardo just mentioned, great conversations. So if you're one of those that has taken or can take a lot more from the film, you could actually open the minds for someone that hasn't gotten some of the concepts and still enjoy the film and had a great conversation about it. Um, the film is beautiful in aesthetics, uh, and like I mentioned many times during this episode, is very zen. So you could actually just play this whenever you want to relax. From the visuals to the music, it will put you in that, you know, zone where you can just enjoy and relax. And again, I'll do that warning. If you are, if you typically fall asleep in movies, you want to have a coffee because it's going to put you in. And those things that I mentioned make this film, just like like Captain Chaos mentioned here, a unique film. I don't think, and I know there are variations of this in the past, but I don't think there's something quite like this one out there. And it makes me wonder if it's a product of its chemistry, or could we have like an hour and a half movie of this? It just true. I truly wonder about this. But the film, I don't think I've seen something similar to the to what this film actually did. Um, and again, if you know of any, join us on Discord. Going on the YouTube comment section and go ahead and let us know if you number one agree with what we all mentioned here, or if you um, have an idea of any other film that did this formula as good as they did this one. So yeah, it's a great film. I strongly recommend it for all ages and for all levels of education. It's very hard to say this about a sci-fi film because it's either soft sci-fi or hard sci-fi. This one is all sci-fi. It is for the hard sci-fi lovers. It makes you really think about deep topics within sci-fi and science. And it's also for the lovers of hard sci-fi. I mean, soft sci-fi. They are looking for the aesthetics that brings into a sci-fi film on a bright color lens. So I'd strongly recommend this. If you have not watched this by now, watch it. Let me know if you guys agree with that.
Awesome.
Okay, so I guess we can move on to the next segment.
Yes.
The science and
Well, in the real science, over the past few decades, astronomers have discovered thousands of exoplanets. I personally have
Yes.
great fascination for this. Uh, some of these planets are in the habitable or hospitable zone, or the Goldilocks zone of said stars. And the conditions might be right for liquid water to exist, the key ingredient for life as we know it. One of the most famous exoplanets discovered is Kepler 452b,
Hmm.
often dubbed Earth's cousin because it lies within the habitable zone of its star, has similar characteristics to Earth. Now, don't get confused with this because many of these exoplanets, as nice as they look, depending on their mass
Oh
and
yes.
their rotational force, they might be very deadly. Deadly enough that even if there is oxygen, it could be way more thicker, or thinner or dense, and the gravitational force alone could squash you. And there's nothing you can do to fight it other than maybe be underwater, so it doesn't really crank you up, but still.
Yeah,
Then you got the pressure over the oxygen too, and the composition of it that you cannot breathe.
the
You know?
water is going to be actually worse. There's a lot more mass.
It's
Yep.
like a water that swallows
It's
you.
like trying to swim, like to swim in slime. I don't know. Ain't gonna be good, you know. So these are little things that often are not mentioned when we're talking about the possibility of going to another exoplanet, that are very critical to keep in mind. At least whenever I see or read about an exoplanet, even if there's probable life on it, that doesn't mean that we can coexist in the same environment that they have evolved into.
Mm.
Just
Eh,
like the same is for us. I mean, if you remember one of our favorites, IP, John Carter from Mars,
Yes.
when he go to Mars, he kills Barzumian with one little punch. He kills it,
Hmm.
not dead, because we're supposed to, because of more gravity than Mars, our exoskeletal structure is far more stronger
Yeah.
than theirs.
And you know that is accentuates what I mentioned earlier
Mhm.
about how life, is so rare.
Mm.
Um, in the galaxy. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, right? We talked about this many times. There's a lot of stars equals a lot more planets, and there's not just one galaxy. There's multiple galaxies, so it's tremendously big, right? But it is how fragile life is that it takes a specific formula. The planet has to be at the correct distance from its sun. It has to be the right size. It has to have the right um, components.
Not only that, but the system. I mean, people all underestimate the importance of Jupiter, for example. Jupiter
Mhm.
is our windshield. Without Jupiter, we would have been hit with something millions of years ago
Yes.
after the Big Bang that extinct dinosaurs. uh, but would have been hit constantly more
Mhm.
and more. But Jupiter is the shield of Earth and many other planets around us, that with his gravitational force pulls anything into it or away from us out of that orbit. And I mean, that's very important too in another exoplanet system, in order
Yes.
to make it a safe place where you don't have to eventually think that you better have some kind of space for defense task system to
Yeah.
protect you for anything that is traveling out there. Because some things come and go, but some things are gonna come once and just hit you. That's it.
Hmm.
It's
That's it.
over.
That's it. And yeah, and going back to what I was saying, even if you have all that in place for an exoplanet, that doesn't guarantee that
Mhm.
life is going to spawn,
Hmm.
because it's a formula that has to be just
Hmm.
right and in the right moment. So yeah, when you're talking about exoplanets
Mhm.
and how some of them are very promising, that doesn't mean A, that we'll find civilization there,
Mhm.
or B, that we could actually live there.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And that's the portion I left for my input on the science and sci-fi.
Ray is missing here, isn't he?
Yeah,
Mr.
Ray, man,
Mr. Scientist. Well,
the
he would
scientist.
say right now, I'm not an astronomer either, mate.
Yep, yeah, pretty much. Okay, so I think we can wrap this up on today's episode. Again, thank you very much for being with us one more time. I hope that you really enjoy this episode as much as we do enjoy
Hmm.
the conversations that we're having on this show. But if you want to join the conversation, which why not? You have avenues to do this. You can go ahead and join our Discord. If you are listening to the show, there's going to be a link on the description. If you're watching our YouTube channel, all you got to do is scan the QR code on the screen, and it will take you straight to our Discord. If you never use Discord, all you got to do is just download the app or go into the website, create an account, free and easy. And then
If you
click
never
on the
ever use Discord, there's a first time for everything. Or well, no, for some things, not for everything.
some things. Enjoy the conversation. Let us know your thoughts on this film. If you agree with some of the things we mentioned here, if you disagree with some of the things we said here, and do let us know your point of view. This is one of the things that we enjoyed about this film is everybody's perspective. I believe there's no wrong answer. I might not agree with you, but I become a better person for listening to your point of view.
Not me.
So just bring your point of views, join our Discord, and let's talk about this topic. Now, we do have some websites. We have
Some.
some. We have sciencefictionremnant.com. This is our main website. This is a hub to all the links to whichever your platform, your podcast platform of choice is. It'll take you straight to whichever is that you want to listen to us, so you can subscribe. You could also read our articles. We have very short articles, about 3 to 4 minutes long. There's kind of like around the same thing that we do in this show, so it wouldn't take you long to read. If you have an iPhone, the website, all you got to do is click on the banner at the top, and it will automatically open Apple Podcasts, so you can sign in. And of course, we have links to all the other stuff that we have.
Spotify, Google Pods.
Exactly. We have another website. If you are a creator, there's a thing we're trying to do, and this is sci-fi.net. So if you're a creator and you want to join this thing that is in its infancy, you can reach out to us. You can reach out via email. You can reach out via Discord, which is the most direct way to reach out to us. And let us know that you want to be part of this. We also have a Buy Me a Coffee. If you want to help us produce the show, as you know, producing things like this is very, very expensive.
I want to get a Shure mic.
You can. It's very, very expensive, even on the services. So if you want to help out with just a few dollars, you can go to Buy Me a Coffee and help us out in that manner. We also have a Substack. Yes, Substack. This is where we actually post some of our articles. You'll if you like reading, not only articles that we post, but also some articles that other sci-fi writers are posting. I invite you guys to join. And of course, if you really want to help us out, we are it's so close to the 500 subscriber mark. Tell your friends, tell your family, subscribe, help us out, help us reach that 500 mark. And so in that way, you can help the show grow even better. So with that, thank you again so much for joining our show. We really appreciate not only you coming week after week to listen to us talk about our favorite topic, which is sci-fi, but also for the engagement, for joining us on Discord, for talking to us on threads, in whichever, X, Instagram, whichever is your platform of choice. Thank you so much for the engagement. We will not be here if it wasn't for you. So I really, really appreciate you guys being with us. Check our back catalog. We have a lot. And there's a big chance that we have already covered something that you love. And if we haven't, you can reach out and we can make it a thing. So check out our back catalog. And thank you so much for joining, and hope to see you on future episodes.
See you in a billion years.